Cloud9 just finished up their first week with the new team with Blast Fall groups and the betboom closed qualifier. In Blast Fall groups, they went 0-2, losing 1-2 to both FaZe and NIP. In the closed qualifier, they went 2-2, losing in the quarterfinals to Johnny Seeds, both of which I would qualify as pretty disappointing results. Was really hoping to at least make it out of groups. For the closed qualifiers, I was kind of expecting to win, or at least make the finals, do something well there. But let's talk about the positives that I saw. So first of all, Icy looks amazing. He looked so good in his first match versus FaZe. He actually looked better than any of the demos that I watched on him. He made a lot more plays than I thought he was going to make, was a bit more aggressive. His rifling looks good. His opping looks very good and consistent. He's the real deal, and I'm very excited to have him on the team. I think he's going to grow even more. If this is his floor, I think he can go much higher. I think Heavygod also looks amazing. His aim and his mechanics are absolutely on point. He's posting a 1.17 rating in brand new roles on both CT and T side. He also looks like an incredible player to have on the team. He's clutching out of his mind. Very excited to have him and see how he can continue to grow in his new roles as well. A lot of this team rides on Axile, and Axile has also come in looking really good. Also a 1.17 rating in new roles, just like Heavygod. I thought he's looked very solid in a much more active role on both CT and T side, and I'm happy with the way that he's played so far. Boomich is struggling a little bit with his aim, and also the T sides for Cloud9 have looked bad. A lot of this stems from the fact that he's losing the opening duels. Right now he's negative in that category with only a 0.77 opening duel rate, and that's on CT and T side, and I'm pretty sure it's worse on T side. It feels like he dies first a lot. So I think there's definitely room for improvement there in both his fragging and his calling. Then we have Interz. Interz, I think, is doing fine. I've watched a bunch of POV demos of Interz, and he does his role. He plays solo on the sides. He lurks where he needs to lurk. He does play pretty passive, but he has a few clutches. He's 3-2 in one-on-one clutches, has a couple one-on-two clutches. So he seems to be doing fine. He definitely isn't the problem on the team. Just like the last time when he was on there, I don't think he's the problem. I also don't necessarily think he's why we would win games, but his mechanics and his fundamentals look fine. He might just need some more experience, but for the situations he's put in, I think he does all right. The only thing I've kind of been thinking about is that he doesn't seem to have a lot of impact on his lurks on T side, and he does play them very passively, so that's kind of something I'm watching for to see if he can actually activate or have a little bit more impact when he is performing those lurks. Some things I've noticed about the team is on T side, it feels like we take a lot of time and play the T side slowly, but we don't get a lot of map control during that time. When Interz is doing his passive lurking and the rest of the team is kind of grouped up, it seems like they will take mid on Mirage, for example, and then they'll just be holding mid, and then Interz is holding in Palace, and they kind of just hold that area, but they don't really have an idea what's going on the rest of the map. Or on Ancient, same thing. They won't have control of Cheetah or any of these other areas, and so they kind of get wrapped upon a lot. The CTs can figure out where they are and what they're doing because we just don't have any extra map control beyond where we currently just sit. And on Ancient, you can see this especially because we just cannot get control of Cheetah on T-side Ancient. And it's kind of the same thing on CT side. We don't seem to take a lot of space. We just sit back and wait, which is also kind of typical of how Cloud9 plays, but the days of one player dropping a 3K when they're solo on the site seem to kind of be gone and have been for a long time now, especially since Interz is now taking a lot of those solo roles. That just doesn't seem to be happening, and just the sitting and waiting when Interz only gets one kill and then it's one more player trying to stop the other four coming in with all the utility, then they get one kill and then all of a sudden it's a 3v3 retake. But this also could stem to something that I've noticed as a pattern that's kind of come up, is that it seems like when the Gambit roster first joined Cloud9, their ability to peek out, get a kill, fall back, wait for a teammate's flash, wait for their teammate to peek another angle, and then continually peek out and get these kills and work off their team, that was so incredible. Now it feels like every time they go for a peek, they're trying to spray down three. They just sit in a spot and spray, or they're wide swinging as the T's are executing in to try and get that hero play. It doesn't seem like the same calculated, slow, trust in your team, wait for the right move kind of play. And that's something that I wonder if it's going to be hard to get back. And I wonder if that's because the teamwork has lapsed from that original Gambit team. And so now people feel like they have to carry more. And I think that puts us in worse situations. Another thing to think about is that Axile and Heavygod are both in brand new roles on both sides of the game. And that's going to take some getting used to. Axile and Heavygod are not really in many of their spots. Interz has actually taken a lot of them, which really kind of surprised me. I thought Axile and Heavygod were going to kind of split everything up. But on Dust 2, for example, Interz is solo on B, and Heavygod is playing the more like B rotate. And Heavygod is now playing connector on Mirage, when actually in the demos that I was watching when they were playing FACEIT games all together, Axile was playing in that role. So they might have just made that switch recently. And then on T side, Interz is the one who's lurking. So they're in brand new T-side roles as well. So the fact that they both have a 1.17 rating is actually amazing. So if they continue to grow in that, I think that there's a lot of growth potential in this team. It just seems fairly obvious that the teamwork is not there. The number of times that we had a 4v2, 5v3, 3v2, whatever, that we lost was staggering. And also the number of ecos that we lost. We had so many eco losses versus FaZe. And then we had the 1v4 that we lost to Kerrigan too. So many of these plays. Or there were times we were in a 3v1 that it comes down to a 1v1 because someone peeks and dies. Then another player peeks and dies. The ability to play off each other when it's not a set execute and it's more of a we're in a post plant or we're kind of taking map control doesn't seem to be there yet. And you saw this a lot, especially on the first day, and it got better, but they don't seem to know what each other are watching. They're holding B side on Dust 2, and you have Heavygod over behind car, and then you have Interz underneath window. They both turn from window, and no one's watching window, and someone comes out and kills Interz. That shouldn't be happening. Or then you have, on Inferno, you have Axile playing pit, and you have Icy holding short, and Rops is able to just walk out of apps and kill Icy before Axile sees him. Stuff like that was happening a lot. And so it seems like their ability to communicate or understand what each other are doing isn't there yet. Now, that issue I'm not worried about getting fixed. I think that is this is their first officials together, their first week together. Their ability to play off each other, I think that's going to be fine. The hero plays I am worried about, because that is something that is a fundamental way that you play the game that would be hard to break. And that's also been going on since before this lineup. And I'm also worried about the T side, because we struggle with the same kind of things that we've always struggled with. But if you do take the games and you clean up all the anti-ecos and all of the 3v1s, 4v1s, 2v1s that were lost, then a lot of these games are quite different. So maybe that'll just come in time. What we do have though is we do have a lot of players who are great in the clutch. Interz is doing fine in the clutch. You have Heavygod, who is 4 for 5 on 1v1 clutches, and also another 4 1v2 clutches and a 1v3 clutch. So he's fantastic in clutching. And then you have Icy, who is only 2 and 4 in one-on-one clutches, but has 5 1v2 clutches. So we have players who are comfortable in the clutch. We have Axile, who doesn't have many because he's more in the entry packs, doing his part with a 1.17. We just need to up Boomich a little bit. I'm okay if he dies first on entries. The problem is that when he's dying first and there's no one around. Overall, this feeling kind of sucks to kind of have gone out this way, especially when we absolutely, in every world, should have beaten FaZe. And that would have been an absolutely amazing opener and such a good feeling. And then to go from there to win the first map on versus NIP and lose, and then win the first map versus 3D Max and then lose. All that feels awful. Feels like my heart got ripped out. But overall, I feel optimistic about the team, because the 3 players who I wanted to do really well are all doing really well. Icy is above the expectations that I had for him already. Axile and Heavygod, both in completely new roles, are doing very well. And Interz is not a problem at this point. I think the biggest problems are losing opening kills early. Our T sides need work. Our CT side feels too passive. And then it feels like we're kind of going for ego plays versus playing off of each other. All those things are fixable. Will they get fixed? We'll have to see. That all comes down to groove and also practice. One thing to keep an eye on is for the major, they're supposed to have 10 wins for the Valve ranking by August 7th. It's currently August 3rd, so they're definitely not getting 10 wins in the next 3 days. But what someone did bring up to me, and I have not vetted this or don't know how 100% true this is we could put Perfecto in the lineup and then have Interz as the sub, and then just basically have Interz play. And that would give us the core of 3 of Axile, Perfecto, and Boomich to give us the Valve rank, to get us into the RMR, and then be able to play. Like I said, I haven't vetted that information, but it sounds plausible in the fact that Cloud9 wouldn't just completely give up on this major. So maybe that'll happen, but we're going to kind of have to wait and see how that works. Because Cloud9 just giving up millions for that doesn't seem like something they would do. As for our next match, it looks like it's going to be the Blastfall Showdown in a couple weeks, but I'm wondering if we're going to play some other smaller tournaments before then. We're not going to be at IEM Cologne. So hopefully we'll get some more sample size in before the Blastfall Showdown. At Cloud9_win on Twitter. I'll see you next time.